If I were determined to become a millionaire in 2025, the very first step I would take is something that almost no one dares to do. I would approach this year with a profound sense of urgency, viewing it as my final, golden opportunity to transform my life. You might find this perspective a bit dramatic, but allow me to share a hard truth that few people have the bravery to confront head-on. Time is an irreplaceable resource. The years we let slip by never return. The moments you possess right now represent the most precious asset in your life, yet it's also the one most squandered by the majority. While so many others continue to wait passively for the perfect moment to arrive, I would take a stand and make a firm decision today. I would resolve that 2025 will not be just another year drifting by unnoticed. Instead, it will be the year I seize control, marking the beginning of an extraordinary turnaround. This will be the year I take full command of my financial stability, mental clarity, and emotional well-being. And no, this transformation has nothing to do with relying on luck, such as winning the lottery, or chasing elusive magical shortcuts. It's all about cultivating the right mindset and positioning myself internally for success. Because before any tangible results manifest in the external world, they must first take root within your mind and spirit. I've already lost far too much time waiting for the so-called ideal conditions to align. I've squandered energy on elaborate plans that never progressed beyond the drawing board in previous years. In 2025, I would change my approach entirely. I would begin with a straightforward yet profoundly honest question. Exactly where do I envision myself standing by the end of this year? And, even more critically, what am I truly willing to sacrifice to make that vision a reality? Because if you aspire to become a millionaire, you must stop behaving like someone who is merely tinkering with self-improvement. A millionaire operates on a different level. He thinks on a grand scale, acts with meticulous precision, and cherishes every single minute of his day as a valuable opportunity. That is precisely the mindset I would adopt moving forward. If you feel prepared to embark on this journey with me, then take a deep breath, steel your resolve, and join me. The very first decision is to reject the ordinary, commonplace life. Do you know what my initial, concrete step toward earning my first million would be? I would decisively reject mediocrity in all its forms. I would cast aside the notion of a common life and challenge everything I've been taught to accept as normal. You cannot genuinely desire an extraordinary life while continuing to live in the same way as everyone else. The majority of people work solely to cover their bills, live from one paycheck to the next, spend more than they earn, and still convince themselves they're on the right path. But let me share a secret I've learned through painful experience. Living life on autopilot is the slowest, most insidious form of self-destruction. If I wanted to become a millionaire in 2025, I would start by saying a firm no to the outdated version of myself. No to excuses that hold me back. No to addictions masquerading as harmless pleasures. No to the suffocating comfort zone that keeps me trapped in mediocrity. Because in life, everything comes with a price. You can either pay the price of discipline and hard work now, or you'll end up paying the far steeper price of regret and missed opportunities later on. And I choose discipline. I recognize that this path isn't easy. It's deeply uncomfortable to look into the mirror and admit that I've been the one accepting less than I deserve. That I've wasted precious time on distractions, meaningless conversations, and promises to myself that I never fulfilled. But there's also a liberating power in this realization, because if I was the one who allowed myself to live that way, then I am also the one with the power to change it. This change begins the moment you reject the belief that you must conform to the life everyone else leads. While the world constantly pressures you to blend in and follow the crowd, I challenge you to do the exact opposite. If you want to build a millionaire's life, you need to make this critical first choice. Stop trying to fit in and start standing out in bold, unmistakable ways. And I can assure you that when you make this decision with unwavering strength and conviction, everything around you will begin to shift and align in your favor. Now, let's move on to the plan involving the 3 essential assets that generate true wealth. If I wanted to become a millionaire in 2025, I would need to accept that there's no hidden secret or mystical formula waiting to be discovered. Instead, there exists a clear, actionable plan that revolves around mastering 3 fundamental assets. These 3 pillars form the bedrock of genuine wealth and are within reach of any individual willing to act with focus, determination, and persistence. Those assets are skill, capital, and leverage. First, let's talk about skill. Take a moment to reflect with me. Why is it that some individuals manage to earn substantial incomes while others struggle just to make ends meet? The difference lies in possessing a skill that the market highly values, a competence that makes people and companies eager to pay for your expertise. This could be anything from sales, programming, content creation, negotiation, investing, or leading teams. What matters most is that you develop a talent that delivers real, measurable value. However, it's not enough to simply acquire any skill. You must strive to become exceptional at it. This demands a daily commitment to learning, practicing, and refining your craft. If I were on this journey, I would set aside dedicated, sacred time each day to study and enhance this skill, even if it were just 30 minutes before bedtime or during a lunch break. This consistent effort creates a competitive advantage that no one can strip away from you. Moreover, this skill will serve as the foundation for generating your first reliable source of income. Secondly, let's discuss capital. Many people mistakenly believe that to start investing or building a millionaire-worthy business, you need a large fortune to begin with. That's a pervasive myth. Capital is simply everything you accumulate and manage intelligently, and you can start with very modest amounts. If I aim to become a millionaire, I would treat every dollar I earn like a rare and precious seed, nurturing it with the intention of watching it grow over time. I would eliminate unnecessary expenses and steer clear of the consumerist traps that keep most people financially imprisoned. Saving money isn't just about cutting costs. It's about understanding where and how that money can work for you. This might involve investing in financial education, stocks, mutual funds, real estate, or even your own entrepreneurial venture. The key is to never let money sit idle, because idle money is effectively lost money. Lastly, and perhaps the most powerful of the three, comes leverage. If skill is the tool you wield and capital is the fuel that powers your efforts, then leverage is the engine that multiplies your results exponentially. Leverage involves using external resources, such as money, time, or technology, to amplify your impact. For instance, you might use other people's money to invest, build a team to work on your behalf, create digital systems that generate sales around the clock, or leverage platforms to expand your reach to a wider audience. The common mistake most people make is trading their time directly for money, essentially selling their hours. If I wanted to become a millionaire, I would do the opposite. I would focus on creating systems and strategies to multiply my income without proportionally increasing my workload. To achieve this, I would need to think like an entrepreneur, even if I haven't yet established a formal company. When I master these three forces, skill to earn, capital to invest, and leverage to multiply, I become virtually unstoppable. The synergy of these elements is the powerful engine that can transform any ordinary person into a millionaire. But knowing these concepts isn't enough. You must take decisive action. Every single day, in every decision I make, I would choose to grow my skill, save and invest my capital, and seek out leverage to amplify my results. Even if progress feels slow at the outset, consistency is what triggers the snowball effect that builds lasting wealth. This journey, my friend, begins with the commitment to focus on what truly matters, leaving behind the distractions and tempting shortcuts that only deliver fleeting, superficial results. If I wanted to become a millionaire in 2025, I would dedicate myself wholeheartedly to mastering these three assets. Because when you gain control over this plan, you become ready to weather any storm and prepared to reap the rewards of enduring wealth that lasts a lifetime. Now, let's address the invisible enemy that sabotages the potential of aspiring millionaires. If I wanted to become a millionaire in 2025, I wouldn't only concentrate on what actions to take. I would also remain vigilant about the forces that could undermine my progress. And the truth is stark and unforgiving. The greatest enemy isn't a lack of money, an unstable economy, or burdensome taxes. The real adversary resides within you. It's invisible, insidious, and far more dangerous than any external crisis. I'm referring to self-sabotage. You're familiar with that inner voice that whispers, "This won't work," or that persistent urge to put everything off until next Monday. It's the fear of making mistakes in front of others that holds you back. This is what prevents ordinary individuals from rising to the level of millionaires. If I were committed to building wealth this year, I would need to wage a silent, relentless war against this internal enemy. Every time I chose the path of comfort over progress, I would be strengthening this self-sabotage. Every instance I picked up my phone to escape reality, I would be drifting further from my million-dollar goal. And the worst part is that all of this feels normal. It seems harmless on the surface, but it quietly erodes your chances of success. There's another critical detail to consider: the environment you inhabit, the people you surround yourself with, the habits you indulge in, and the opinions you absorb. All of these either propel you forward or drag you backward. If I wanted to become a millionaire, I would take deliberate steps to change my environment. I would stop seeking advice from individuals who have never built anything meaningful. I would limit my exposure to negative influences and instead immerse myself in content, voices, and people who reinforce my belief in my own potential every single day. To win this internal battle, you need clarity of purpose, constant repetition of positive habits, and the courage to push through discomfort. And once you identify this enemy and resolve not to feed it any longer, you've already taken a bold step that 90% of people never have the guts to take. The discipline that turns any man unstoppable. If I wanted to become a millionaire in 2025, I wouldn't rely on fleeting motivation, because motivation is unreliable. It ebbs and flows. One day you might wake up brimming with excitement, and the next, you could feel utterly exhausted, lacking even the will to get out of bed. But there's one thing that remains constant: discipline. Discipline is the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you lack the desire or energy. It's about saying no to distractions that seem urgent and saying yes to the priorities that truly matter. If I aim to be a millionaire, I would establish a non-negotiable routine that provides structure without being overly rigid or artificial. I would wake up at the same time each day, organize my schedule around my top priorities, and divide my time into 3 distinct blocks: learning, execution, and review. The learning block would fuel my personal growth. The execution block would deliver tangible results. The review block would help me identify and avoid repeating mistakes. Most importantly, I would focus on measuring progress rather than obsessing over perfection. Because discipline isn't about being flawless every moment. It's about consistently returning to the plan, even after a setback. And if I stumbled, I would pick myself up the same day, without dwelling in drama or self-pity. The millionaire I aspire to become in 2025 isn't perfect. He's consistent. Discipline isn't an innate talent. It's a muscle that grows stronger with training. That's why I would commit to small, daily actions: reading 10 pages, studying for 30 minutes, producing something of value each day, and above all, keeping my promises to myself. When a man learns to trust in his own reliability, he becomes unstoppable, not because the world changes, but because he has transformed from within. The day everything changed. Every person has a pivotal moment in life when something deep inside awakens. It might be triggered by humiliation, a crushing failure, or even an ordinary day made extraordinary by a single, life-altering decision. If I wanted to become a millionaire in 2025, I would mark that moment as the day everything changed. In my own story, it wasn't the day I earned money. It was the day I lost everything and realized that what truly mattered was what no one could ever take from me: my mindset, my vision, and my ability to make bold decisions. But I'm not alone in this experience. Consider men like Howard Schultz, the visionary behind Starbucks. He came from an impoverished background, grew up in a challenging neighborhood, and worked tirelessly just to survive. There was a defining day when he faced a crossroads: continue living the same life or take control and pursue his dream. He chose to take control, crafted a clear vision, and never looked back. Or take the example of Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He endured bankruptcies and financial hardships, but one day he decided to immerse himself in the world of investing, shift his mindset, and share his hard-earned wisdom with the world. These men each had their key moment, the instant they decided that nothing would ever be the same again. In my case, that day came when I sat alone, burdened by debts and overwhelmed by shame, staring into the mirror and thinking, No one is going to rescue me. I must save myself. In that moment, I understood that the only route to my first million lay in an internal transformation. You don't need a miracle, you need a decision. And once that decision is made, there's no turning back. And what if I were starting from absolute zero, with no inheritance, no valuable contacts, and no shortcuts? I would follow this exact plan. First, I would silence the external noise. I would turn off social media for at least 30 days, distance myself from people who only complain, and create an environment of focus filled with books, silence, and goals plastered on my wall. You can't build an empire while surrounded by constant distractions. Second, I would choose a high-value skill and stick with it. No jumping from one idea to another. I would commit to becoming exceptional in one area, such as paid traffic, copywriting, video editing, sales, or marketing, something the market is willing to pay a premium for, and dive in deeply. I would dedicate 2 hours a day to studying, practice in my spare time, and even offer value for free in the beginning, knowing that the seeds I plant today will yield rewards for the next decade. Third, I would create an offer, a tangible way to convert my skill into income. This could be a service, an informational product, a consultancy, or a content channel. But there must be something to sell. Those who don't learn to sell merely survive. Those who master selling thrive. Fourth, I would treat money with the respect it deserves. I would set aside a portion to reinvest in my own growth, another portion for long-term investments, and cut every expense that pulls me away from financial freedom. Fifth, I would establish a daily goal. Write, sell, study, train, and focus on making small, steady advances every day, because no one wakes up a millionaire overnight. But every millionaire woke up one day and decided never to stop pushing forward. And if you think it's too late to start, remember that 6 months of total focus can propel you 5 years ahead of where you are now. If I began today, I would proceed without rushing, but with a sense of urgency, without anxiety, but with clear purpose. Because if I commit to 365 days of discipline, the world won't recognize me by December. If I wanted to become a millionaire in 2025, I wouldn't wait for everything to be perfect. I would start with what I have, where I am, and who I am today, allowing the process to transform me from the inside out. Because the first million isn't just about accumulating money. It's about the person you become along the way. It's about shedding the lazy, fearful, and hesitant version of yourself to give birth to a strong, focused, and free individual. You have an entire year ahead of you, and you can choose to repeat the same patterns or build something that your future self will thank you for with heartfelt gratitude. The choice is yours. And if you're ready to walk this path with me, subscribe to the channel, leave your comment, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. I'll see you at the top.